Hello and welcome to Travel Smart Seniors. Today we're going to explore a hidden gem in the Bavarian Alps. So we are staying in Munich and we want to visit the mountains and ride a cable car. Where should we go? Well, the first choice is Garmisch Partenkirchen, which is a well-known resort, or we can go to Mittenwald. Indeed, there are three places close to Munich accessible by train: Innsbruck, which is in Austria, Garmisch Partenkirchen, or Mittenwald. Now, Garmisch is really great. It's home to the highest peak in Germany, the Zugspitze, and also home to where they held the Olympics in 1936. Innsbruck is also very nice, and I have done a whole video on the cable car ride in Innsbruck. Well, why Mittenwald? It has everything the other cities have to offer, plus it is smaller and thus more walkable, and it is not nearly as crowded as the other two cities. So what is there to do in Mittenwald? In this video, I will cover 6 things that you can do, but I assure you there is much more. Well, number 1 is taking the cable car to the Karwendel, and it's the second highest cable car in Germany next to the Zugspitze. Then once we're up there, we'll walk through a tunnel from Germany and emerge in Austria. Next, we'll visit the village and show you some of the shops and some fine things to do and eat. We'll explore the very interesting connection between Stradivarius and Mittenwald. We'll attend a play, or actually a folk music show, and then I'll show you a little about the food and lodging. When we travel, we typically travel by train, and from Munich it's an hour and 45 minutes to Mittenwald. The only non-stop trains are late in the afternoon, otherwise we have to change in Garmisch-Partenkirchen. Along the way you'll be treated to some spectacular views, but then you get to Mittenwald station, and the mountains are absolutely stunning. Now, quick by the way, before you leave the station, it's a great place to go in and grab some snacks. As I said, the town is very compact and quite walkable. The Bahnhof, the train station, is right here, and it's very close to the pedestrian zone downtown, but we're going to start at the Karwendelbahn, which will take us up to the top of the mountain, overlooking Mittenwald. The walk from the village is quite nice. You cross over the Isar River, which flows from Munich, and then you climb up a small hill and look back towards the city. It's not too bad of a walk. This cable car is the second highest in Germany, only to the Zugspitze, and it takes you from the valley floor up into the Karwendel Mountains in just 10 minutes. And this time lapse certainly speeds it up a little bit. What is really amazing is that there is only one suspension tower all the way up, and you rock quite a bit when you go over it. As you near the top, you get a close-up view of the rugged cliffs and a jaw-dropping view of the mountains to the south, and you can even see over to the Zugspitze. At 2,200 meters above sea level, you step out into a completely different world. There's some hiking trails right behind the cable car station, and you can hike up and get some spectacular views. But be sure to bring good shoes and dress warmly because the weather is very different up here. Also up here you'll find the Bergwelt Karwendel, Germany's highest nature information center. You can go in and get a good view of the town through this, what looks to be a telescope. This is Germany's highest nature information center, and it's small but fascinating, especially if you're curious about the fragile alpine ecosystem. This is the view standing in the telescope and looking down. Now there's some artifacts in the windows due to the glazing, so it's not really the best place for photographs. You do need to dress in layers as it's much colder up here than it is down below. Look at the icicles on the side of the frame. Fortunately, there's a place to warm up and get some refreshment as there's a restaurant attached to the building as well. Try to get a table by the window as the views out the window are absolutely incredible. Here's where we are on the ridge, and then looking south, you can see the Zugspitze. Also note that we're on the border of Austria, Österreich. So here is the actual view looking towards the Zugspitze, which is on the right side here, the highest peak. Now here's something a lot of people don't expect. From up here, you can actually walk to Austria. No passport required. Just follow the signs towards the Damkar Tunnel. This is the Damkar Tunnel. It's about 400 meters long, carved straight through the mountain, and it feels like stepping into a James Bond movie. On the other side, you're in Austria. Yep, just like that. The tunnel pops out into an epic alpine view trail. From here, you can see over towards Innsbruck. You can actually see the top of the peak that we took from downtown Innsbruck to Nordkette. And then this view is from Nordkette looking back towards Mittenwald. Very well then, once we've enjoyed the summit, then we take the cable car back down and walk back across the Isar, but we want to look at some things along the way. Take a look at this little shed and notice how neatly the wood is stacked for the winter. And here on the doorway of this little place, we get a view of what we will see more of in the village. This place was near the river, just across the bridge. Just look at all the former alpine animals that are represented here above this old taxidermist shop. Next, we came upon an ice arena where they were practicing the Bavarian sport of curling, or Eisstockschießen. All right then, let's take a little walk around Mittenwald. We'll start at the train station and go up Bahnhofstrasse, the Bahnhof, all the way up to Hochstrasse, and then we turn left on Obermarkt, which is the pedestrian zone. You know you're on the right track when you can see the church tower above the roofs, and it lies right at the top of the Obermarkt. Take your time as you stroll down the street and enjoy all the souvenirs and things there are to buy along here, and if you're here at Christmas, it's even better. Well, as you're walking along the pedestrian zone, there's always time to stop for a snack, and you may even see some outdoor seating even in the middle of the winter. But be sure to look at the signs that you see above the doors, and that will give you a clue as to where to stop. But there are also ice bars in the wintertime outdoor, or you can stop and have a schneeball, or during the Christmas season you can have some traditional glühwein, but please don't let the dogs see you, they get very jealous. One of the things that makes Mittenwald so charming are the hand-painted murals on many of its buildings. They're called Luftlmalerei and means literally air painting. It's a traditional Bavarian art form that turns everyday houses into open-air storybooks, with scenes of alpine life, folklore, and religion painted right onto the walls. Right in the heart of Mittenwald, you'll find the parish church of St. Peter and St. Paul, which is a Baroque church that has been there since the 18th century. It's really worthwhile stepping inside, particularly around the Christmas season, as the altar is highly decorated. There's a cute little animated nativity scene, a sample of a Gregorian chant, and hand-carved pews. Be sure to take a long look up at the ceiling and enjoy the Baroque frescoes there. And right outside the church, you'll find a statue of Matthias Klotz, a violin maker that turned Mittenwald into one of the violin-making capitals of Europe. Right around the corner from the statue is the Geigenbau Museum, the violin-making museum. And this little museum tells the story of how this quiet alpine village became one of Europe's most respected centers for handcrafted instruments. Here you'll see original workbenches, tools, and some beautifully preserved violins. As you return to the village, you will see some violin makers that are still in business today. As we sat down for a snack, we saw a brochure advertising the Kohlrabi Postel. This is actually a little play promoting a local character who had a thing about kohlrabi. We actually went and saw it, even though it was all in German, but at intermission, we had a nice folk music group to entertain us. There are a number of folk music venues in the city. You can go and enjoy traditional alpine folk music, such as this group of kids. Notice that the tall boy is having a great deal of difficulty keeping his socks on. Well, after all that fun, it's probably time for a little dinner, and I have a couple recommendations for you, both on the main drag. The first is the Hotel Alpenrose, and the second is the Post Hotel Mittenwald. Both have wonderful atmospheres and is a great place to get some traditional Bavarian food. Well, we wrap up with looking at a place to stay, and I highly recommend the Alpen Hotel Rieger. You get greeted by a very happy gentleman, lots of flowers, and a really wonderful breakfast area. The rooms are well appointed with a sitting area and the typical twin beds with down comforters. But the real treat is the view out the window, and that's at sunset, but you wake up to this. Well, that does it for us, and now we say Auf Wiedersehen to Mittenwald. Take one last glimpse at the outstanding scenery, and so if you're interested in something quiet, Mittenwald's the place. Thanks for watching, and take a moment and subscribe to the channel, and this is a link to the top of Innsbruck, the Adorned, which you can see from Mittenwald.